While most of you know, SiriusXM Marine Weather has roughly about 20 different weather features. Tonight, we're just going to run through a few of the most helpful features that we've heard consistently are the most frequently used. All right, so tonight we're going to be covering really these basic weather features. Number one is weather radar and lightning, very critical and probably the most used of all for obvious reasons. Next, we're going to go through wind and wave and forecasts. And then next is marine warnings, critical feature, and marine zone reports. All right, next slide. All right, here is our introduction. And so my name is Geoff Leach. I'm based in the Annapolis, Maryland area. We also have John Spittle from Garmin. John really leads the training for all of Garmin, both internally and externally, and he's based in the Tampa area. And then Dan Dickerson, who's going to be walking us through all the features. Dan is our foremost expert. He's our customer-facing boat show guru and also technical expert that answers anybody's questions. If you need technical support, Dan is your man. Dan's also based in the Annapolis area. Dan and I both work out of the DC office for SiriusXM Marine. So that's us, and let's get started.
If you have the latest Garmin chart plotter on your boat, this is typically the screen that's going to come up when you turn it on. This is the navigation screen on your Garmin showing your charts. And before I go into the weather services, I always like to do what I call a little bit of housekeeping. From this screen, if you click on the home signal symbol down at the bottom, it brings up this advanced menu bar. And then we have a settings category over here. And this is where you can go to check to make sure that your SiriusXM system is operating properly. If you select settings, the first thing that you can go to is the software information page. And on software information, it's going to tell you right below the unit ID, the SiriusXM weather radio ID. That's this 8-digit combination of letters and numbers. That's like the phone number that we can contact your SiriusXM receiver and set up your subscription from that number. So if that ID and that's how you call us to subscribe, you have to give us that number to get the service started. So that's on the software information page. And then going back to the Garmin devices page, this is helpful information. This shows you basically any Garmin device that's on your network, on your boat. And it typically starts off with your chart plotter, and it shows you your chart plotter model number and the software version. And then further down this list, if you're subscribed to SiriusXM, or not even subscribed, but if you have a SiriusXM receiver installed, it's going to show up in this device list, and it's going to give you the software version of the SiriusXM receiver. And knowing these two versions can be critical, especially if you're having issues. That's one of the first things we're always going to ask is, well, what software version do you have? So clicking the back button again, the next screen that is very helpful is the weather subscription page. So if we click on weather subscription, it's going to give us a list. First of all, tell us what plan you're subscribed to. You'll be able to see if you're subscribed to the plan that you asked for. And it's going to give you a list of all of the weather elements as they come in and the time that they updated. And then it's going to switch over to a second receive time. And that's showing you how many minutes it's been since that piece of data came into your receiver. So when I snapped this screenshot, for example, weather radar had just loaded. It was 0 minutes old. The city forecasts were 19 minutes old. Another critical piece of information on this screen is up here at the top is the software, the signal strength. And you can see while I was taking these screenshots, the signal strength actually changed. It went from 1 bar to 2 bars. And realistically, you want at least 2 bars or 3 in a perfect world. If you're only getting 1 bar, then the signal, the data is not going to load properly, and it's going to take forever to load. So another thing when people are having issues, first place we ask about is what's your signal strength? That's critical, and that's on that weather subscription page. Okay, so getting started, now that we know that the system is online and working properly, the data is coming in, we're going to talk about weather, radar, and lightning. So going back to this basic screen that comes up when you first turn on your chart plotter, if you select the home symbol down at the bottom and you're subscribed to SiriusXM, you're going to have these additional buttons on your screen down here on the charts section that say precipitation, forecast, sea conditions, etc. And they'll have this SXM logo. So we're going to go to the precipitation one first. And when you first turn that on, it's set up with, it comes from the factory with default settings for the weather. And this is the type of screen you're going to see, which is a little bit cluttered. And it's got some information here that is not really high priority and you probably don't need to leave on all the time. So if you go over to your options category and select it, it brings up the menu where you can configure things a little differently. Now, if you turn something off and then realize you didn't want to turn that off and want it back on, also here in the menu, you have restore defaults. That doesn't affect anything else on your machine like waypoints or anything like that. All this restore defaults button does is turn back on the layers that were on when the unit came from the factory. So it gives you the starting ground zero starting point to go back again and figure out what it is you want to display on screen. So we're going to go up to the top to observe layers, and you'll notice there's an arrow here. That means there's an additional submenu you can get to. So if we click on observed layers, now we see it says observed layers at the top, and these are different pieces of weather elements. And the green bar designates that that feature is turned on. So right now, sea surface temperature is not turned on, but storm is. And here again, we have a submenu we can go to. So in the submenu, we have 4 items turned on, and the one that I'm going to turn off is clouds. And you'll see the gray on screen disappeared because that was the cloud image that was present. And that's really not information that you need to have on there all the time. Maybe if you're out fishing and you're looking for a shady spot and there's a few scattered clouds out there, that might be information to go look at. But otherwise, not that critical. And also hurricane. If there is a hurricane in the area and you happen to be down on the boat, you just want to see what's going on, yeah, you can go look at it. We kind of figure, during a hurricane, you're probably not going to be on the boat. So leave it turned off most of the time, reduce some of the clutter on screen. So now I'm going to hit the back button. And these symbols that you see here, these are weather stations, and buoys also fit into that category. Now, normally you would be able to click on those and bring up information about that specific, say, there's sensors on board those buoys, and you can see the information coming from the sensor. But right now, we're just going to go over here and turn those off just to reduce clutter. And now I've gone back to the main screen. So we can see where the boat is on screen. We can see there's some rain happening up here in off of Cape Cod and over across the country. That's an idea of what precipitation is going to look like. There's one lightning strike showing up down here. But I'm going to shift the map over. We're going to go take a look at Florida. So this is some screenshots that I captured a little while back, just to the west of Tampa. And you can see multiple lightning strikes here. The different shades, these are all forms of precipitation. And the darker green is lighter rain, and then it goes a little bit heavier. Yellow is heavier still, all the way up to this bright pinkish reddish color here. Those are very heavy storm squalls, and you can see there's lightning strikes occurring there as well. One note about the lightning strikes. A lightning strike symbol appears on screen if a strike has occurred at that location within the last 20 minutes. And if the location is more than 20 minutes old, then the strike symbol disappears. So these are all strikes that just happened, basically. And it kind of, it's consistent with that heavy squall that's happening right there in those two areas. Now, the other thing that you can do from this screen is go back to your options, and there's a loop mode. And with the loop turned on, what that does is it plays a moving map image of what's going on. And up here in the corner, you'll be able to see the timestamp. So we're seeing what the precipitation looked like at 11:20, and then 11:25, 11:30, and so on. This loop will play, it plays a 20-minute loop of 5-minute intervals to give you a sense of which direction this storm is moving. And that's going to help you stay out of these heavy squalls if you're out there. So that's going to be really helpful information for the precipitation. All right, next we're going to talk about wind and wave forecasts. So I'm going to start by going back to this basic first page that we were looking at and click on our home button down at the bottom. And this time, instead of selecting precipitation, we're going to select forecast. So with that selected, here again, there's a lot of stuff coming up on this screen. And right now, we don't want to look at all these pieces of information. So again, we can go over to the options page and we go into our forecast layers, which is what's showing up on the top bar now. I select my menu, my sub menu for that. And I'm going to turn off the weather stations again. There's some light blue lines here. Those are marine zones. I'm going to turn those off. We'll talk about zones in a minute. City forecast, that's these cloud and lightning symbols, or it might be a sunshine symbol. Those are basically airports that are reporting the forecast, the meteorological forecast for those specific areas. And you can click on those and get more information. But for right now, I'm going to turn those off as well. Surface pressure, those are your isobars, and your cold fronts and your warm fronts are what fall into the surface pressure category. You can see there's a drop-down menu. That's because you can turn on and off the fronts and the isobars independently. So we're going to turn those off. Now I've got a nice blank screen. I'm going to start from scratch, and we're going to go up here to wave. And for wave, I have a sub-menu. So we have 3 pieces of wave information. We can go look at wave height, and wave height shows up as a color. And if you have the legend turned on, you can see there's a scale for that, and you can just click anywhere on screen and it'll give you the wave height at that location where you've clicked. And you can see how in the different colors now it's giving me different wave heights. And it's basically dark blue is 1 foot or less, and it goes from dark blue to red. And that's how the wave height feature works. So next we're going to go turn on wave direction, and you can see we have a red arrow showing up that gives you the direction the waves are running. And then lastly would be wave period. Wave period brings up this contour line that you see with a number along it. So here we have a number 4, here's a 5 and a 6. So this is your wave period. These waves up here are 4 seconds apart. Down here, they are 6 seconds apart. And it kind of coincides. You have bigger waves up here, they're closer together. Down here, we've got some smaller, slow rollers happening. So the next thing to talk about is forecast. The way we have it set up right now, if we look over here in the upper left corner, it says now, and there's a right left arrow button. If we click on the right arrow, it flips out and shows us 12 hours from now how the conditions are going to be changing. So at this time, it was 5.9 footers happening, and we can see the waves are running basically southwest to northeast. And here we have a 6-second interval. And down here we have 4-second intervals. And then I can click on this arrow again, and it takes it out to 24 hours. And you can see how the conditions are changing over the next 48 hours. So that's how the wave forecasting feature works. And next, I'm going to go back to the menu. Instead of turning wave on, we're going to turn winds on. The wind works pretty much the same way. With winds selected, I now have the symbol that comes up on screen that gives me my wind speed and direction. And again, in the legend, there's a way to determine what these symbols mean. Essentially right here, we're looking at, for example, winds are out of the southwest at 20 knots. So that means when the NOAA forecast, they always say winds out of. That's where the wind is coming from. So it's out of the southwest at 20 knots here, 10 knots down here, and I can hit my right left arrows up here. If I advance it, I can see 12 hours from now what it's doing, how the wind has changed a little bit. I'm going to go out to 24. Now you can see how this circular pattern is occurring. The winds are changing. If I jump out to 36 hours, this is kind of interesting. We get this question a lot. What does this circle with this dot mean? That means the winds are light and variable. In other words, there wasn't enough strong enough wind in order to get direction out of it. So it's just light and variable. And then right below that, you see this symbol, that straight line, that means it was less than 5 knots. So still a very light wind. And then below that, we have a symbol with a very small tick mark on the end. That would be a 5-knot indicator. And then as we get further down to the bottom of the page, we can see a 10-knot indicator. So that's how the symbols are running here. And then I'm going to flip out just to 48 hours. You can see how it's changed. It's picked back up again. I'm back to the 20 knot winds. So next, I've combined both wind and wave together in one image. And you can see that the winds and the waves are pretty much running in line with each other. And that's what the conditions were when I took the screenshot. Now, if I look 12 hours out, we can see the situation has changed. The winds are out of the southwest, and the waves are more out of the south here. So it's getting a little choppy out there. You've got wind and wave conflicting one another. If I go out 24 hours, we'll see it's even more so. It's all over the place. The wave direction and the wind speed and direction are not gelling with one another. And if I go out 36, here again, same thing. It's choppy out there. We call it confused sea. But take it back to 48 hours out, things are starting to even out. Wind and wave, as the wind picks up, the waves are going to run more the direction of the wave in most cases. So that's your combined wind and wave forecast feature. All right, next we're going to talk about the marine zones. And as I mentioned before, that's these pale blue lines that you see that are all along the coast and inland as well in some cases. So when you have the map up on your screen and have the marine zones shown, or you don't have to have them shown, but for use here, we are leaving the zone boundaries turned on. But realistically, anytime you can click on a chart anywhere, and this screen can pop up for you. And typically it's going to come up, it's going to say coastal forecast. And you're going to see over here, you've got this coastal forecast button in the upper right corner. So if we select that, basically that's giving us an overview for that area where the cursor was. And it's going to be a multi-page piece of information about the area. And then the other thing, when we click on the chart here, in addition to coastal forecast, this local weather button comes up at the top of the plotting screen. And if we select this button, then we get a different set of choices over here. And the marine bulletin is a more localized forecast. That's where these blue lines come in, and for a specific, very much smaller region. So if you select marine bulletin, it's going to give you information for that specific region. This is the weather forecast that you listen to on the VHF. That lovely garbled computer voice. And when I listen to it, invariably, when they talk about my area, because they talk about multiple areas, I'll get distracted while they're talking about my area, and then I'll miss it. And you have to wait, 10, 20 minutes before they come back around to your area. It's much easier to be able to just click on the spot, on the cursor, on the screen, and see what what the forecast is for that area than listening to it on the VHF. It's a much faster way to pull up what NOAA is saying the forecast is going to be for that particular day. So next we're going to talk about marine warnings, which are marine zones. It's sort of a package deal. The difference is with the Garmin, there is the marine warnings setting in the menu that you can turn on. And when you have that marine warnings selected, then when there is an area where there is something more severe that's occurring, these red shaded areas are going to show up. And if you click on the area, it's going to say, yes, that's a marine warning. So you'll know if it is comparing it to some other red symbol that might be on the chart. When you click on this one, it says, it's a marine warning. And again, you have this box over here that says marine warning in the upper right corner. We can click on that, and it's going to give you the specific marine weather statement that's coming out for that area, that's telling you what bad is happening in that area. So, and here is that warning area. I've turned on the lightning and the precipitation. So you can see this is why there's a warning there. We've got some nasty stuff happening, lots of lightning, lots of heavy squall activity, and that's why that marine warning is occurring for that area.
We recommend too, just leaving your marine warnings on. Because, you know, more often than not, especially summertime, depending on where you live, you could get a summer pop-up cell and have no idea. It could be a beautiful blue sky day, and all of a sudden there's a threatening storm coming. And to see that warning pop up is just a great indicator and notifier that that something's happening in your area. All right, John, can we hand the mic over to you and unmute you and have you talk a little bit about the GXM54 receiver?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Geoff. So GXM54, that is our SiriusXM weather receiver along with audio. So when you purchase ours, retail pricing is $849. We do have a rebate offer when you buy a new Garmin GXM54. There's a $300 rebate when you actually do a 60-day subscription and hold that. The GXM54 comes with your antenna. It comes with your receiver, audio receiver, and power. It also comes with the RJ45, which is your Ethernet connection, and that is what will plug into your current GPS map unit. So from anything from a GPS map 7600, 8600, 743, 943, and so forth, it'll plug right into the back of it. I also wanted to make sure that I called out that cable that you see on the left-hand side. That is an adapter cable that'll go from the RJ45 large Ethernet connection to our smaller 9-pin connection, which we call the BlueNet connector. And that's going to connect to our new GPS map series that we introduced last year called the 9000 series. If you do have the 9000 series, you can use that adapter and plug right into the back of the unit.
Don, is that now shipping with the GXM54?
It is not. So that is an accessory cable currently.
Okay. So, and you only need it if you have a 9000 series unit.
That is correct. Yep.
All right. So John mentioned the rebate for those of you who have not signed up for the service yet, who do not have a weather receiver. We have a really special limited time rebate right now. So provided you buy your GXM54 from between March 1st and June 30th, and then as John mentioned, establish your plan, maintain it for 60 days. We will send you a $300 Visa card as that rebate. So you can find that at SiriusXM.com/marine rebate for anybody who's interested. Okay, let's keep going. There's 3 different plans with weather and fish mapping. The basic one is the coastal plan. And really the difference between coastal and the next tier of weather, which is called offshore, the only difference is forecasting. There's a lot further out forecasting. So if you're a day cruiser or you're just, you do not need those extended forecasts out to 48 hours, you're just fine with the coastal package. The offshore service, above and beyond the forecasting, also has extended sea surface temperatures for those anglers that are going out there and looking for the pelagic species of fish and want to know what the sea surface temperatures are, or those that are doing crossings across the Gulf Stream and want to know exactly what the sea surface temperatures are to see where the Gulf Stream is. And then the final tier is fish mapping, which is really a tier exclusive for offshore anglers. It is the highest tier of weather, as well as 8 dedicated fishing features that show up directly on your display. So those are our plans.
And just jumping back to the marine coastal, a little bit of a misnomer here. The coastal, even though it says coastal, the precipitation and the lightning information that you get goes as far out as we have data, which is approximately 150 miles. So, you know, the coastal package works well if you don't need the forecasting and if you don't need the sea surface temperature. The cutoff, the only geographical limitation to the coastal package is sea surface temperature stops 20 nautical miles from shore. So if you're running offshore out to the canyons, then the coastal package sea surface temperature won't be there for you. And the other thing is forecasting. With the coastal package on Garmin, you're only going to get current weather conditions. You're not going to get any forecast whatsoever, just current conditions, just the now pictures that we were looking at earlier.
A really valuable resource where ultimately the recording of this webinar will go is in our video library page. And that's SiriusXM.com/marine library for anybody who wants an education, both long form webinars like this, as well as just really short how-to videos. This is the perfect place for it. So it's SiriusXM.com/marine library. Click on the Garmin tab there. And we have a whole host of videos on weather, individual features, as well as fish mapping. So if you need technical support from SiriusXM Marine, you're having trouble with the actual SiriusXM Marine service or signal strength, or you can't figure something out, go to marine.support@SiriusXM.com. We highly recommend that you email us and don't just call the 1-800 number. That can be a real pain point for people if you don't call the right 1-800 number. So if there is a technical issue that you need, please email us, marine.support@SiriusXM.com. All right, as far as Garmin support, John, you want to cover this?
Yep. So Garmin technical support, you can call us at 1-800-800-1020. That's a number that's been around for about 30 years. Or you can reach out to our website at support.garmin.com. Wanted to make sure to let you guys know what the current software versions of the 54, and that's 3.30. And then in the screenshots that we took were from the 8616. The current version of the GPS map series is 34.00.
Well, thank you all for joining. Really appreciate your attendance, appreciate your support. Hopefully our service is serving you well. And hopefully this was educational and can help you with your boating adventures out there. So stay in touch.